This Allied 400 episode of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by BIRDDOGS Shorts. Dominate summer with an amazing pair of shorts and a free Yeti-style tumbler when you order over at birddogs.com/pool. That's birddogs.com/pool.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Welcome into another episode of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. Things may look a little different behind me, but I promise you I am still the same guy bringing you all of the NASCAR news. And obviously, if you're listening on the regular podcast, it probably sounds a little different to you as well. Bear with me. I am on location trying out my new mobile setup. I don't know if I like it yet, but I'm pretty sure we'll hammer through this to get through our episodes.
Hey, I'm just glad that you could be here with me and we can get this done.
I know, and that's the thing about it too. I mean, obviously last week I was on location, didn't have access to Wi-Fi, which is in this day and age kind of important when it comes to doing actual internet related things. So this time I was, and so now here I am.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you were able to make it on. Glad we got some odds out finally. Why we took so freaking long to get odds out when there was a bye week last week, nobody may ever know, but we've got odds now anyways.
It boggles my mind that literally we sat here waiting for until the regular time that it takes to get odds when they had a full week to prepare for it.
Yeah. And for, as was discussed in the Discord, copy and paste odds, like very similar to how they are almost every other week. Like it's not that much has changed. So I don't understand, but whatever. Here we are.
Here we are, and we're able to get through it. So, yes, of course, it is the Ally 400. We are in Nashville this week. All three series in action. Cannot wait to break it all down for you. But yes, this is the Cup episode because that's how we start. That's the one that gave us the most odds to start with. So that's where we'll go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a newsy day in NASCAR. Mm-hmm. So if you want to cover that real quick, Stuart Haas announced some crew chief changes. If you remember, Johnny Klossmeyer, Briscoe's current crew chief or former crew chief now, suspended 6 races after that massive penalty that they got. So he's eligible to return at Pocono if he has a role with the team still. But SHR has announced that Riley Herbst's crew chief, Richard Boswell, is going to take over Chase Briscoe's team in the Cup Series. And then Eric Almirola, one of his engineers, Davin Restivo, something like that, is going to move to Xfinity to be the crew chief for Herbst. And I guess they did say that Briscoe's crew chief, Johnny Klossmeyer, is going to stay at SHR in Vehicle Performance Group. Why? I don't know, because I don't think he's had anything to do with vehicle performance this year. But nonetheless, that is the case. So some shakeup as far as the Cup Series crew chief goes there for the number 14 car. And then some news on Chicago street course.
Will it make a difference, though? That's the question. Is this going to make a difference? And forgive me for getting up. I had to turn off the air conditioner because it was making an awful noise that I didn't want to hear. But do you think it's going to make a difference, Cody? That's my question.
I mean, it can't get any worse. So that's a positive, right? That's look at it glass half full. I mean, I really, why not try something, right? He's suspended anyways. This guy had some success early in the season with Herbst. It's been rough for lately, but that's not always been car related. Like it seems like that's been more of wrong place, wrong time a lot of the times for Herbst when it comes to that. So we'll see. I mean, it can't hurt to try it and see how it goes. They could switch things back later on after the suspension's over if they wanted to anyways, or whatever. I mean, at this point, as bad as things have gone, as far down in the points as they are with these massive penalties, like essentially the number 14 season is over. Even if he were to snag a win at a super speedway or something like that, he's so far because he lost a lot of playoff points. Like it's his chance, even if he makes the playoffs, is so far out that it probably doesn't even matter at this point. So let's try something different. See if we can finish 6 spots in front of BJ McLeod instead of 3 and find some improvements. So I don't think he's going to come out and look great this weekend all of a sudden or anything like that. But again, it doesn't hurt to try and change things up and do something different, I think.
Yeah, sometimes you got to shake that whatever you got, snow globe. Sometimes you got to shake it up.
Yeah. And man, Klossmeyer's been on that car for a while. He was with Clint Boyer before. And then him and Briscoe had so much success last year, right? Well, they had a decent amount of success. I think that maybe some numbers were more inflated than others, but obviously got that Cup Series win. He made it to the final 8 in the playoffs. So overall, a very successful season. And then as things have gone down this season, boy, it's been something else.
I mean, what can you do at this point? Like you said, I guess you got to take some swings. You gotta figure out what to do and to make it work. So speaking of finding things to make work, let's talk about some BIRDDOGS shorts. I am in prime California weather at this point, and I am loving the fact that it is about to be shorts weather pretty soon. And I'm loving the fact that I'm going to be able to make it BIRDDOGS season even sooner. BIRDDOGS, what are they? Well, they're stretch khaki shorts designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg. They give you a truly sculpted look, my friends. BIRDDOGS shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better. And plus, they fit better than those regular shorts that are made of stiff and restricting cotton. BIRDDOGS, they fixed all of that restricting cotton-esque by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches, so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice on movement. Plus, and more importantly, BIRDDOGS uses anti-sweat and stink wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Who does not want that at all? If you want in on that action right now, go to birddogs.com/pool. Enter the promo code POOL for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/pool for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take off your BIRDDOGS. We absolutely 100% promise you. Like you said, Cody, this was definitely a newsy day. Briscoe's news was the tip of the iceberg at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So a couple of things. Cup Series driver is not allowed to run the Chicago street course race for Xfinity. No surprise there because that's kind of been the case the last few years, right? If they go to a new track for the Cup Series, they don't want them running on that track in anything that weekend to get the experience, blah, blah, blah. So with no Cup Series guy to fill the number 10 car, which has been their all-star car, Justin Marks, the owner of Trackhouse, or co-owner with Pipple, of course, is going to come down and drive it. He's been a NASCAR driver before, specifically the Xfinity Series. He's had a lot of success. A sports car racer as well. He still does that all the time. He'll go race on Sunday mornings, fly to the track, and watch his guys go compete. And he's very, very good at it. So it'll be interesting to see him out there, right? He's puts on the driver's suit on Saturday, and then he'll be back in the owner's suite on Sunday. So it'll be interesting to see how he does there. But I'm pretty excited to watch him get out there in that number 10 car, because I think that could be pretty exciting, especially at a street course like that, where it's going to be, man, the Xfinity Series, that's going to be a real interesting race there.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you right now, just to know that the car owner is going to be out there driving that all-star car, it just, that sort of ratchets it up a notch because you're not used to seeing owners step into. I would pay. I don't know how much I'd pay, but I probably don't have enough to watch Joe Gibbs get into one of his own. How amazing would that be?
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of owners are former drivers, right? Like Rick Hendrick was a driver before he became
Richard
an
Petty.
owner. Yeah, Petty, obviously, Richard Childress, and now obviously guys like Jimmy Johnson getting into it, and Denny Hamlin. Like we know about those guys, but some of the old guard were drive. Roger Penske was a driver. I don't know if he drove any stock car stuff, but IndyCar driver for sure. So yeah, very interesting there, but it'll be fun to see Justin Marks get back into the Xfinity Series ride. Last piece of news, the Washington Commanders have their new owner, or soon to be, I think the deal's still technically processing, but Josh Harris, his sports group, boy, this is a whole how all this works is interesting, but I think it's Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment is the group. So HBSE has bought into Joe Gibbs Racing. We've seen this obviously before with Roush Fenway, right? Fenway Sports Group on the Boston Red Sox, a bunch of other stuff. LeBron James part owner in that, but they bought into Roush. That became a 50-50 partnership. This is not that. This is just a minority stake. In the theory, I think, is obviously Joe Gibbs, when they were the Washington Redskins, right? He won 3 Super Bowls with them or whatever it was. Legendary coach there. So get the new owner in with the fan base, right? He gets to partner with Joe Gibbs and they can do all kinds of fun stuff. In return, Gibbs has bought into that sports group, which gives him part ownership of the Sixers, the Devils in the NHL, and all kinds of other stuff. So it's kind of a win-win, I think, for both sides on this. But nothing's going to change. The name's not, it's going to continue to be Gibbs, Joe Gibbs Racing, and nothing else changes other than some influx of money, right? Which is always nice, and maybe some ideas or whatever, but still going to be Joe Gibbs Racing.
The rich people's problems, right?
Yeah, that's
how many different sports. How many sports entities can I be a part of?
Yeah, the Nuggets guy, he just won, the Nuggets won the NBA Finals, and it's like, well, now he's won the NBA Finals, the Super Bowl with the Rams. I think he's part of the owner of the Avalanche. Yep. And then God, what was there? It was like a lacrosse team on there. Something that he won 8 different major league championships in the last couple of years. I'm like, dude has way too much fucking money, all right? But I mean, that's the dream, right? If I had that much money, I'd want to buy a bunch of sports teams that win championships too. So you can't blame. He's literally living all of our dreams, but it's hilarious.
I think that's what it is. I'm just jealous. Let's just call it like it is. I'm jealous.
But yeah, so and that's all it is. And it's a lot of, I think, hey, this helps him with the fan base and all that. But it is always good to see. I mean, this guy is an NFL team owner now, NBA team owner, a new NHL team owner, and now he's got some stake in NASCAR. Obviously, we've had an influx of owners lately as far as Pitbull, Michael Jordan, Floyd Money Mayweather with that somewhat car. But there's been an influx of guys with way too much money coming into the sport lately, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it never hurts, obviously, to help promote the sport and help it grow. And just watching all the drivers too, like Keselowski, like you had talked about earlier, jumping into that, Hamlin jumping into that, all these guys getting a chance to further that. It never hurts.
Well, and there's the entire, and so they play at FedEx Field, right? And FedEx, obviously, a Gibbs part, it's all tied in together. I'm sure there will be promotions around it. They'll cross promote, the Commanders with NASCAR with the Commanders. It'll all be worked in there, however. So I think overall, good thing for the sport. Not really going to change anything as far as, it's not like it's suddenly, half of Gibbs got bought out or anything like that. I do think it's going to be interesting to see what the plan is, because obviously Joe Gibbs is not a young man. And he had 2 sons in the organization primed to eventually take over, right? Both of his sons have now passed away. Obviously you have Ty, but he's very, very young at this point, right? He's like 13. So well, he looks like he's 13 anyways, but so it is kind of interesting to see where will Joe Gibbs Racing go eventually. Hopefully Coach, has a long time left here, but if he doesn't, whatever the plan may be, that'd be interesting. I guess maybe this could be a part of that with with getting someone else in sports ownership, at least in the door, maybe. Who knows?
I mean, listen, like we said, it can't hurt. It's always good to have new blood in, and it's always good to see the sponsors that come with them and just all the life that comes in thanks to these guys. So looking forward to that as well. All right, what else happened?
I think that's actually it for news. So
I think you're right. It was a newsy day, but
it was a newsy day, but that was about it. Legacy's gonna appeal. I think their appeal will be heard next Wednesday. As far as their greenhouse emissions or whatever the penalty they had for the greenhouse thing. But again, at this point, does that really matter? Probably not.
Not even in.
So yeah, that penalty was from Gateway, and yeah, it's set for June 28th. And so Dave Ellens will be the crew chief this week for Eric Jones because the suspension is deferred. So he doesn't have to start serving the suspension while they await the appeal. So I guess if you think that's important, great. I don't think that's important.
It's not right now. I'm sad to say, but it's not right now, unfortunately. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we are going to Nashville. Like I said, the Nashville Superspeedway. It will be 300 laps, this Ally 400, around this 1.33, not your standard intermediate track. It is one of those.
Nor is it a super speedway. The name is a touch misleading. It's
very misleading.
Not actually a super speedway.
But I mean, again, it's like Nashville Superspeedway. What do you say? I mean, it's raceway, it's speedway, it's super speedway. Who knows? Yes, definitely not your typical Talladega and or Daytona Superspeedway. Nashville just did not want to be left out of the running. So yes, they will run 300 laps for a total of 399.900 miles in this. Only the third time that they'll have come to Nashville, the Cup Series. Not a long and storied history here, so not a lot of track history to pull from, but we've definitely still found our fair share of bets. We've got some comp tracks to get to, and we will talk about all of that.
Do we have comp tracks?
Yeah, I found a couple that I like. We'll say that in a second. Yes, we're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is who we are brought by. Best Ball Mania 4 is here. And Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes. Underdog Pick'em is also a great way to get down on your favorite MLB and college basketball player props. So many ways to win over on Underdog and active in so many states, especially those of you who are not in legalized gambling states. Like me. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code SGPN. I've been to Nashville before, and I love the city. I was stationed just outside of Nashville at the Fort Campbell area and spent a lot of time roaming around Nashville. Never did get to go to the track though, unfortunately. But I would have loved to have. That's a very nice looking area. Lebanon, Tennessee, just outside. It is a suburb of Nashville, not in the city proper. Still plenty to do. Still plenty of fun to have. These guys basically are, by all rights and accounts, in Nashville, just not necessarily in Nashville. So it's not a super speedway and it's not in Nashville, but they're still there in Tennessee.
Yeah, no. Nashville, great city. I've been there as well. I was there. The track was not open at the time. This track, an interesting history, sort of, right? So it opened in 2001. They got Xfinity Series right away. I don't think maybe they had trucks. I know they had Xfinity, IndyCar for sure, ARCA, possibly trucks. I'd have to double check on that. But and then the track closed down in 2011. Only 10 years old. That was it. Closed down. I think it was like 2014 or so. They sold the place. We're going to tear it down, develop it into something. That whole deal fell through. Somebody else bought it, fell through. Eventually, 2021, reopened the place, brought the Cup Series back, or the Cup Series there for the first time. And now here we are, right? This is the third season of the Cup Series being there. So kind of an interesting story. The track isn't that old, being open to 2001, but was closed for 10 years of that time and just left to sit there again. And it's been revived. Obviously, they're working on the Nashville Fairgrounds as well, trying to get that approved. I believe that's more in Nashville, actually, where we might have a Cup Series race there eventually. I know Dale Jr.'s really big in on that, and we've seen how that goes with North Wilkesboro. Dale Jr. won something. a lot of people in the NASCAR world tend to listen to him.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a voice that never gets ignored. Dale Jr. speaks, the world listens for sure. So
exactly.
All right, Cody. Well, like I said, look, I looked at a couple of tracks to get ready for this, and I looked at Darlington, I looked at Gateway, because those are the ones that are not quite your 1.5 mile tracks. Obviously, the banking is different on all of these. We know that Gateway is a very short, flat track, and Darlington is not necessarily like Nashville. But when we're talking about distances and concern, that's kind of what I looked at going into it, especially, obviously leaning heavy on past Nashville performance, because we have 2 years sort of starting to become a data set you can trust. So that's what I looked at in handicapping this race this time.
Yeah, I feel like I've said this a lot lately, but another track that there's not an exact comparison. Like, it's just we have so many of these non-cookie cutter tracks now where there's not another track that's exactly like it. It's not one of these 1.5 miles where you can look at exactly another track. So I looked a lot at Gateway as well. I think that they're very similar in size. Mostly this track is a little more banked and not quite as flat. But still similar in size. Also looked at Dover just a touch, because Dover is a concrete track. This is a concrete track as well. I think that makes a difference. You can throw in Bristol a little bit as a concrete track as well. I think it's a little bit of a tougher comparison, but the concrete surface, there are certain guys that seem to pop up a little more when it comes to concrete. I'm going to be talking about at least, a couple of those guys, I guess, as we get farther into this show. So, those were kind of the ones I looked at. Obviously, then you look at Nashville here in the past, and how the last 2 races, even more so last year, of course, with the new car, and how they kind of went. And again, what have you done for me lately, right? Momentum. We talk about it a lot. That plays in so much on a week-to-week basis. You got to factor it in again here. So definitely a heavy dose of that as well.
Indeed. All right. Well, I guess it's good a time as any to start laying out some bets for the Ally 400 from Nashville, Music City, or just outside of it, I suppose.
Speaking of momentum, this was exactly what this bet is based on. I'm taking Ryan Blaney over Ross Chastain, plus 100 on Superbook. Been fading Ross Chastain lately. Going to continue to fade Ross Chastain ever since Rick Hendrick made his comments after the Darlington race. And then Justin Marks came out in the public and said what he said about basically the public, chastising of Chastain. It's been a different driver since. Until we see differently. Will Ross eventually come back up? Will he eventually look great again? Probably, right? He's going to get that aggressiveness back, whatever it may be. But until we see it, I'm off of Ross, and Ryan Blaney has been solid. So I went back over the last 7 oval races, like what I like to say, like true oval races. So not road courses, not super speedways. That's basically it, right? So every other oval, intermediate, short track, whatever it is. 6 of the last 7, Ryan Blaney has finished 9th place or better. His 16th place at Kansas was the one outlier. And he finished 3rd at Dover. Again, concrete track here recently. Ross Chastain, he did finish 10th last week at Sonoma. Kind of an outlier finish to his performance. He wasn't running that well. Lucked out on when that caution fell for the tire. He just happened to have pitted, flipped everything, and was able to somewhat hold on to track position. That's why he got that finish. But you go to the 3 races before that, 22nd, 22nd, and 29th. That is the glaring thing for me when it comes to Ross Chastain. He's been pretty good here in Nashville in the past. Yes. He was good at Dover earlier this season. Yes. But ever since the Hendrick and Marks comments, it's not been the same. I think that's going to continue. And Ryan Blaney, we've seen it, right? He's been so consistent. He's now gotten that win. He's riding high. I don't see why that's going to stop this week. Give me Blaney over Chastain and, even money basically, plus 100 over on Superbook.
I mean, fading Chastain has just become, like we said, the it thing. Now, Chastain is this year's Hamlin. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
And basically just avoiding him at all cost.
And I'm already telling you, eventually it's going to stop. And once it stops, it'll stop. And it'll be probably a pretty abrupt stop. Once we see him come out, lead a ton of laps, run a really good race again, it's going to be like, okay, we're off. But until we see it, and they keep giving us matchups against premier guys who are continuing to get it done on a week-to-week basis, that's the exact Hamlin situation we had last year. He was bad. Then all of a sudden he was good. that's when we stopped, and it worked out perfectly. We're just repeating the same process.
I can't remember which show it was. They weren't really quick to call him neutered. They said they didn't want to call Chastain neutered, and I remember I was like, but
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I think we talked about that. Like, that's basically what's happened, right? It is like the dog just looks different after you take him in for that, and they come back out, and it's a different dog, and there's not as much fight in that dog, not as deep of a bark in that dog, and that's where we're at this point in time.
We certainly are. I mean, I don't know what it's going to take to get it back, but hopefully we'll find out, I'm sure. But like you said, until further notice, that dog has got no bark left in him. So,
yeah.
All right. Speaking of Blaney, I think Blaney is going to finish well. I definitely do. I see at least a top 10 finish in Blaney's future, but I see a better future for Kevin Harvick than Ryan Blaney. And really, ultimately, this comes down to the fact that this Harvick over Blaney over on Superbook, Harvick's at plus money on this one, at plus 110. And again, with the consistency that is Kevin Harvick, I mean, we don't have to harp on it every single week. I mean, we will, obviously, but kind of for those of you who listen to this show, you absolutely know that that Kevin Harvick is just Mr. Consistent. Several top 10s already, obviously, in his career, just total all over the place. But here in specific, he's got 2 top 10 finishes. In 2021, he had a 5th place finish. In 2022, he finished in 10th after starting 8th. So 2 solid finishes here as well. For Blaney here on this track, not bad either. A 10th place finish in 2021, a 6th place finish in 2022. But I'll lean on Darlington. Like I said, this other kind of 1.33, mile track length, where Kevin Harvick is just a god, a top 5 god. He's got 14 top 5s, the most of any active driver on this track. You got to scroll pretty far down to get to Ryan Blaney's top 5s on this one. In fact, he has no top 5s and 13 starts on Darlington. And again, it's just a matter of with how well Kevin Harvick runs on these tracks and on Nashville in particular. I really just think that, again, we've seen it out of Kevin Harvick, and it's been frustrating because we expected a lot more out of Kevin Harvick this season, being it his last season. But maybe he kind of knows, and he might be kind of packing it in. Not really, but kind of maybe. But when you look at what he did this year, Darlington, he finished 2nd, and then at Gateway, he finished 10th. So 2 solid finishes on those comparable tracks to Ryan Blaney. I'm just telling you right now, I feel like Kevin Harvick is about to really kick it up another notch. Several good finishes over the last few weeks. 11th at Sonoma, 10th at Gateway, 11th at Charlotte. Like I said, the 2nd place in Darlington, 11th in Kansas. So again, not a bad season so far for Kevin Harvick. Not to say that Ryan Blaney won't have a good finish or won't even have a solid race, but this is Kevin Harvick. This is Mr. Consistent. This is a guy that we know is going to have a solid finish. I really think it's going to be a top 5 finish. I don't want to take him at that. I just want to assume that he's going to do better than Ryan Blaney at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's hard to argue, obviously. It's Harvick. It's plus money. I'm really, really high on Ryan Blaney this week, which scares me a bit because I've been there a few times before. But I'm allowed to be now that he's won, right? So that was what happened with Truex. And look how that worked out for us last week. So we'll take it. But man, yeah, this is a tough one. I'm going to stay away from this because I can't pick a side. But again, it's hard to argue against Blaney or against Harvick. I do think that both these guys are going to have top 10 finishes, potentially top 5 finishes. So this will probably be one of those head-to-heads that's separated by 1 spot at the end of the day, right? A head-to-head that's not going to be separated by 1 spot, I don't think. I guess this is your shitbox special of the week. Eric Almirola versus Chase Briscoe. Minus 125 on Caesars. Give me Eric Almirola. It's Chase Briscoe. Should I give any more of an explanation, or should we just move on to the next pick, Rod?
Well, I mean, truth be told, that was my second pick as well. So,
it is. That's right. I saw. Yeah. After I start typing and I look up and I go, oh yeah, we're on the same page. So, I mean, come on, man. Like, we've talked about it at extreme length at this point. Like, Chase Briscoe has been really fucking bad this year. Sure, he's got a new crew chief. Great. Like it, and then like everybody. The thing was, at Gateway, like maybe it's kind of a short or flat track. Maybe he's going to be good here. Where did he end up at Gateway. He ended up. I don't know. I didn't write it.
It was a very bad finish.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't good, anyways. And this track is not flat. And if you go back and you look at in the last 6 races on ovals, he had a 20th, or in the last 6 races in general, he had a 20th place finish at the Coke 600. He was 30th at Dover, another concrete track, 34th at 34th at Worldwide Technologies. I did write it down. His best finish on an oval that's been bigger than 1 mile this season, he had 20th at Charlotte, 20th at Auto Club. That's it. Like, if it's bigger than a mile, he has been horrible. Now, this is going to be so great because when we go back to a short flat track again, I'm going to have so many bets on Chase Briscoe because his odds are going to be so shitty at that point because he's had such a horrible season. But for some reason, he shows up on these short flat tracks, whatever. Short tracks, it's great. Flat tracks, it's great. But you get over a mile, and they have horrible this year. Eric Almirola has not necessarily been a ton better. 19th at Worldwide Technologies, but hey, that's better than 34th, right? 24th at Dover, also not great, but still better than Briscoe. And Eric's won the head-to-head in 4 of the last 6 races. Last year at this track, Eric Almirola 17th. You'll take it. Chase Briscoe 34th. Here's my favorite stat, Rod. Are you ready? All right. These are the drivers in the 2 races at Nashville that have a better average finish than Chase Briscoe. Ty Dillon, who hasn't even been there in a Spire car yet. He was in a shittier car. BJ McLeod, Josh Malicki, Joey Gase, JJ Yaley, Cody Ware, Garrett Smithley, Matt DiBenedetto, Anthony Alfredo, and Ryan Newman. All have better average finish at Nashville than Chase Briscoe.
Holy cow. That is so bad. What a list. That's like one of those looking through that I was like, bet.
Yes. I was like, oh my goodness. Not only has he been horrible this year, he's not had any luck at Nashville either. So that's a double. This is my Edge Boost double down for you.
Well, I mean, obviously we are doubling down on it because both of us have this as our bet. And I'll just go on to say that, like you said, Almirola he's actually got a top 5 finish on this track. As of a couple of seasons, as of the first season he ran it, he had a 4th place finish. Started on the pole, as a matter of fact, in that 2021 race. Last year started 11th, finished 17th. So, he can do okay on this track. And for a guy that we expect to do, finish 34th, all you got to finish is 33rd. I think Almirola can do that.
Yeah. I mean, Almirola could finish 25th and probably be 10 spots better. Like, so you don't need much from him. You just need enough, and I think that's what we'll see. So glad we're on the same page there. I'm going to go back to the Fade Ross boat. Denny Hamlin versus Ross Chastain. I've already laid out the case against Ross, right? I mean, he's off right now, right? You go back and you look at Denny. Had a very good car here last season. 3 of the last 4 races head-to-head, he's beat him. Obviously, it's been some real rough races for Chastain. Denny was 2nd at Gateway, 5th at Dover. Chastain did finish 5th in this race last year again, but at that point, he had 2 wins already on the season. Things were going really great for him, right? It's not been that for him here lately. And Denny finished 6th place here last season. So one spot apart last year. I think that's going to be flipped this year and easily to the Denny Hamlin side. And then again, you know my thoughts on Ross at this point. So this is kind of just, I'm going to take these matchups against these guys that I want to fade. That's Ross Chastain. That's Chase Briscoe. Just load me up on matchups against these guys.
And honestly, in full disclosure, the books did not give us a whole lot of deep cuts when it came to matchups are concerned. So the reason that a lot of these ones that we have to go on the side of Chastain pretty much Chastain. There's a ton of Chastains out there.
I wish there was more Briscoe. I'd take Ty Dillon over him. Jeez. Got a better average finish here.
I would almost take like Briscoe's twin over Briscoe at this point. I don't know who that is, but I'd take him anyways. All right. I'll take another guy that is kind of under the radar. The Group E over on Superbook is Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs, Austin Dillon, and Ricky Stenhouse. Buescher is actually the least favorite out of all these at plus 280 to win this group. And I kind of like Chris Buescher's odds to do this and win this group. For Ricky Stenhouse, we've seen out of him a good race in Daytona, and then it's just been kind of meh. I mean, we don't necessarily we've celebrated some good finishes for Ricky. He's at a top 10 finish on this track to go along with it. So I mean, there's kind of a decent enough case to be made for Stenhouse, but his top 10 finish came in 2021 where he finished in 6th. Other than that, it was a 16th place finish for him on Nashville. But like I said, this season for Ricky, after that win, it's been 2 top 5s and 5 top 10s. The last couple of races for Ricky, especially if you count like Gateway, like we talked about, that being a sort of comparable track, 32nd place finish there, 13th place at Darlington, if we're gonna kind of comp those as well. But for Chris Buescher, this track has not been his favorite. He finished 36th and 30th on this track. But I mean, Cody, we talked about it. It's momentum. Night and day when we talk about Martin Truex Jr. having 2 completely different seasons between last season and this season. Kind of the same for Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher, over the course of his season so far, has had 3 top 5 finishes, 7 top 10 finishes in 16 starts. Look at his last 4 races, really. Darlington 10th, Charlotte 8th, Gateway 12th, Sonoma 4th. Chris Buescher is quietly putting together a pretty decent streak of races. Now we're going to Nashville after a week off. Hopefully he'll be able to turn around what was bad history on this track and really just turn it into performances that we've seen from him lately. Like I said, I'm very encouraged by his 12th place at Gateway, very encouraged by his 10th place at Darlington. You talked about Dover, 9th place finish at Dover after starting 5th. So again, not a bad day there as well. So a lot of encouraging signs for Chris Buescher. We talked about RFK just basically kind of turning it around and making themselves a contender here. So I definitely like Chris Buescher. As far as the other guys in this group, Ty Gibbs has had a very, very bad last few races. And it's just to watch, we had so much hope for Ty Gibbs going into this season. And he actually did very well to start the season. We were talking about his top 10 finishes and how just impressive he was as a rookie. Probably still going to win the Rookie of the Year, but his last few races have been abysmal. And I say abysmal after the start that he had, really. Sonoma 18th, Gateway 20th, Charlotte 26th, Darlington 16th, Kansas 34th, Dover 13th, okay, Talladega 31st. So Ty Gibbs has fallen on some hard times. Can't really trust him, I think, anymore until he shows us again. Austin Dillon, it's Austin Dillon, man. Like, I don't want to count on him to do well at all. He can 100% talent enough to do enough. But if I'm putting money, I'm not putting money on Austin Dillon. I'll take Chris Buescher to outperform this group, especially at plus 280.
Yeah, so I like this. It makes me sad that Gibbs has been down a little bit lately because obviously I've loved betting on him, but hard to make an argument for him at this point. Dillon has just been missing more than he's been found this season. Like, he's not been around a ton, especially with as well as Kyle Busch is doing. You'd think maybe that he'd be doing a little better, but doesn't seem to necessarily be the case. So don't hate that. I'm going to make an argument for Stenhouse here in a minute, but I still think that you could hit your bet and my bet at the same time. Buescher obviously has been super impressive lately. We've gushed over the RFK program, over Buescher, over Keselowski. So no arguments from me there. I do like Ricky Stenhouse this weekend, though, and I like him to get a top 10 plus 240 over on Caesars. When I think of concrete tracks, I think of Chase Elliott, I think of Kyle Busch, I think of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Those are the 3 names that pop into my mind right away every time. And Stenhouse, we've talked about him multiple times this season, right? He has been doing great. So let's go back to last year. He had a 16th place finish here. It's not too far out of the top 10, right? A couple spots better. He's in the top 10. I'd have to go back and look and see where he was. The finish was kind of crazy last year. There's a bunch of guys pitted, and then there was a big wreck, and that kind of messed up the whole finishing order necessarily. But you go back to 2021, 6th place in stage 1, 7th place in stage 2, 6th place at the end of the race. He was in the mix all day long. Now you fast again. We talked about it right last year. Didn't have a top 10 finish after the Coke 600 until he won the Daytona 500 in the spring. Since winning the Daytona 500, he has 11 top 15 finishes this season. He was 15th at Dover, again, a concrete track. Like you said, 13th at Darlington. So just the concrete factor, how well he's done here in the past with his 6th place finish and a 16th place finish, and the fact that he has 11 top 15s. I know that's not in the top 10. It's not 11 top 10s, right? The top 10 number wasn't as impressive. That's why I threw out the top 15. But if you're finishing in the top 10, you're not that far from finishing, or if you're finishing in the top 15, you're not that far from finishing in the top 10. That's the angle, of course, you're going for there. Plus 240. I think you can take this. I do still think you could take your group bet as well and possibly hit both of these. Or even if you just hit one of them, plus 240, that's going to be fine as well. So love me some Ricky Stenhouse this week. I probably won't be on the DFS show later this week, so keep him in mind when it comes to DFS, because I just want to toss that out there.
We'll have to see if the price is right for a Ricky Stenhouse DFS play. No, I like it. I do think that Chris Buescher can still pull out a pretty decent finish. And I suppose if Buescher finishes 9th and Stenhouse finishes 10th, then we're all good. So I like this as well. All right, I'm going to go with my, I guess, wheelhouse, as it were. We all know that winning car numbers are something that I do enjoy throwing out. I feel like I'm throwing them out a lot lately, but I guess if they keep hitting, then we can just continue to throw them out. And this will be my winning car number bet of the week. And this is under 9.5 at plus 125. I'm just going to say it right now. Both of the cars that have won on this track have been under 9.5. It was Chase Elliott. It was Kyle Larson. Obviously, Elliott in the 9, Larson in the 5. But now you've got Chastain, who's got a real, we said he's neutered. But watch this be the race that he comes out and throws out a ring.
Yeah, again, it's going to happen. He's going to pop back up. Trackhouse based out of Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot going there for the Chastain argument. So this is a way to be covered on Chastain, right?
Yeah. Again, like I said, at plus 125, this was actually, I'm surprised this is at plus money with the fact that Elliott and Larson are on there. So again, you got Elliott, you've got Larson, you've got Chastain, you've got Kyle Busch over there now in the 5 or in the 8 rather. So I'm telling you, there's a lot of heavy hitters in this group. Now, am I scared of Cindric? No. Yeah, Corey LaJoie.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I skipped right
you
over.
You can't
Corey
say
LaJoie
under 9.5 and not mention Corey LaJoie, right?
This is true, but you've also got Brad Keselowski has been knocking on the door for a while of a really solid finish and maybe a checkered flag. So, and Kevin Harvick is in that group as well, who we know is going to finish at least inside the top 5 or top 10. So, there's a real possibility.
You throw in Austin Dillon, right? We talked shit about him, but his teammates got 3 wins. He could pop up and get a win. I mean, there's enough guys in that group, but obviously the big hitters is where you're going for, right? You've got Larson, Elliott, Busch, Harvick. Like, it's a pretty good core. Obviously, there's a lot of guys over that number as well, but it's again, we didn't touch on that when we talked about it, but 2 races, Hendrick wins. It's been Larson and Elliott so far, so we'll see if that trend continues.
Yeah. So, and it's a good way to hedge, because obviously when we get to the winners, you'll hear a couple of different names, but I think this is a great way to hedge. Plus, if you hit that also, then you'll hit what we got coming up for you as well. So it's like a double down in and of itself.
There you go. Next up for me, speaking of Hendrick drivers, I'm going to take William Byron top 5 plus 100 over on Caesars. I mean, look at the season that William Byron has had. Like, he has been a top 5 machine. He's been fast every week. He's led a shit ton of laps. Everything has been going well for Byron. Look at the last couple of seasons. We just talked about it, right? Larson and Elliott have won here. Now, who's the best Hendrick car at the moment? You could make a pretty strong case that it's Byron. Even if it's not, he's the second best at this point, right? I love Chase Elliott, but at this point in time, at this point in the season, he's sitting third fiddle to Larson and to Byron. And it's hard to argue against that. So you go back and you look, 8th place rather at Worldwide Technologies, had the 2nd place at Charlotte. He won at Darlington, like you said, a kind of comparable track. 3rd place at Kansas, a 4th place at Dover, again a concrete track. He did finish 35th last year, got caught up in a wreck early. Shit happens, right? But 2021 finished in 3rd place, and that was before he's been as strong of a car as he is now, the force that he is now. And so again, getting this at plus money, it's only a top 5, right? It's not even the top 3, just has to get in the top 5. Byron is going to be up front. He's led a ridiculous number of laps this season. And you consistently see that 24 car up front week in and week out. And so again, that's the last 5 quote unquote true ovals, right? Not counting the All-Star race either, because it's not a points race, but the last 5 true ovals, not super speedways, not road courses, not the All-Star race. He has not finished worse than 8th place. And 4 of those have been inside the top 4 even. So just, again, momentum on his side, the way things have been going for him. Hendrick's been strong here in the past. So I expect Byron to be good yet again.
Well, speaking of Hendrick, and obviously I can't argue with this. In fact, the 24 car was probably the one that I was having the most trouble trying to actually figure out what I thought he was going to do in this. And it's crazy too, because again, like you said, he's probably been the best, if not 1A to or 1B to Larson's 1A this season. And yet we're still sitting here trying to struggle where to put William Larson in the mix. It's just
William
it's
Larson.
William Byron.
You put William Larson in that car, you better watch out.
I think I blame the surroundings that are very unfamiliar to me. I've forgotten who is who. But yeah, I mean, again, it's just it's weird to think that we're trying to figure out what to do with William Byron this late in the season too. So, all right, well, I'll turn to his buddies, Larson and Elliott. Like I said, they're the only 2 that have won on this track as far as the Cup our series are concerned. This is a very interesting number, which is why I'm throwing it out there. I would not go heavy on this, but I will say that this is probably worth a little bit of speculation at 12-1. And that's a Larson Elliott Quinella, not an exacta, but a Quinella. So that means obviously it doesn't matter if Larson finishes first or Elliott finishes first. The other one's just got to finish in second place. And look, can both of these cars do it? Yeah, they can do it. This is an opportunity for these guys to reinsert themselves into the conversation. Obviously, Kurt Busch has been kind of stealing some of the thunder from these guys lately. Larson and, well, obviously Elliott with his injury, and now he's got to fight back. And look, the only way to really get this done for him now is to win. He's won on this track before. He needs to come out and try to do it again. So if he does it, expect that his teammate's going to be just as fast. In fact, all of these Hendrick cars are probably just going to be just as fast on this track, because Chevy has had a really fantastic track record on this particular course. And it's just, these guys are going to continue to try to push it. And if anybody's going to get a 1-2 finish, it's probably going to be Larson and Elliott. If it isn't one of the other guys that we kind of give you later on in it. And like I said, at 12-1, this is one of it's not the longest shot Quinella's on there. Obviously there's a lot deeper shots, but I'm surprised that this particular one is at 12-1, given the fact that both of these guys can win this race. And the other one, obviously if they don't win, they're going to probably finish second. So I thought it was intriguing at 12-1. I liked the number. I think that's why I ended up picking it. And it's another way for you to get in on Hendrick cars if they continue to be solid on this track and to, turn in a really good day for you.
Yeah, hard to argue against it. I mean, obviously they're the 2 guys who've won. They're 2 Hendrick cars, 2 of the better cars in the field. Elliott's performance has been a little so-so lately, but he's one of those guys that, again, can pop up and do it at any point. Did it here last year. You're just waiting to see him do it again, get comfortable, but being back in that car after his injury. Who knows how much that's been holding him back. Now he had a week off to rest up more, right? It could come out. It could happen. Larson, obviously, he's one of the best cars every week. His finishes are always the question, right? He's either going to win or finish second, or he's going to be last because he wrecks out in the course of getting there, right? So, but I do think it's at the price you're getting a good value. So, yeah, no argument from me on that one.
Yes, sir. All right. Listen, if you hear any random bleeps and bloops and whatever, forgive me. I'm literally, like I said, on a laptop now that I'm in a hotel room. I'm sorry if you can hear the air conditioner. If you've lasted this far, I 100% really value your guys' dedication to this show, because I know that as a podcast listener, when something sounds different than what it normally sounds like, I'm always like, what are they doing? But hope you guys have stuck with us through this whole thing. It's just a learning curve in mobile technology for me.
Yeah. Well, we'll blame the U.S. Army again, but at least even though they've taken you away, they've still allowed you to work with us this week. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, listen, we don't got to step away for anything else. I think we're all good to just start laying out our winners. But before we do, I just want to go on record as saying Cody's going to say his, but I had it first.
Yeah, well, why don't you give out yours first? Because you were in the doc first. I logged into the doc. I went in to type my winner in, and I go, motherfucker. Rod stole him. So I texted Rod, and then I said, you know what? Fuck it. We did this last week with Alex Palou in the IndyCar. It worked out for us. We're doing it this week in the Cup Series. I think the fact that, again, independently, we both got to the same guy. I love it. I'll allow you to take the floor here first.
Oh, look at you. You're so sweet. Well, then I'm going to go ahead and take Kyle Busch. It's hard at this point to say anything bad about how Kyle Busch's season has been going. We talked about it. I think even on Monday too, we talked about how just incredible Kyle Busch has been coming off of a win at Gateway, a second place at Sonoma, 6th at Charlotte, 7th at Darlington. He obviously won at Talladega, won at Fontana. Just been a man on a mission so far this season. This track not been the kindest to him, but of course he was in the 18 car last year. This was about the time where we all started to realize that there was several cracks in the armor there at Gibbs. He finished 21st, but like I said, I mean, listen, this guy is on fire right now. He is probably the hottest driver with 2 good finishes. Like I said, at Gateway, that's the one that really gives me the most sort of thing that he could do it again. And we've seen drivers come out and win a couple in a row or 2 out of 3 or whatever. And if anybody's going to do it, Kyle Busch, it looks like you found him at plus 900 on Barstool. I had him at plus 800. So obviously way better value on Barstool right now. But for him to be 9-1 and the way he is right now, he's not even among the favorites. That's the thing about it. Like his value right now to win this race, fantastic value given what he's been able to accomplish this season, the high that he's on right now. And just, again, a week off for Kyle Busch is probably pretty deadly at this point for everybody else, because he's had an opportunity now to just sort of relax again and reset his focus and come out just firing on it. And Nashville better be careful. Drivers better be careful. I think Kyle Busch is going to win this race.
Yeah, and Kyle Busch was really, really good here last season. Led 54 laps. He was second place until a very late caution. I think it was Josh Bilicki blew up or something like that. Late caution, stacked the field up. Elliott decides to stay out. Busch decides to pit, brings some others with him. Some guys stayed out, some didn't. Busch got shuffled back in that because of the guys who stayed out. There was a wreck on the restart. Busch was caught up in that, ends up finishing 21st. Not reflective of how he was doing. 11th place in 2021 was an okay finish for him as well. Won at Worldwide Technologies. Again, a fair, probably the closest again, it's not a perfect comparison, but probably one of the closest comparisons you're going to get. And had a pretty great day that day. And he's been 7th place or better in the last 4 races. How much more can you ask for the guy? Things are going great for him. He's got 3 wins already this season. 3 completely different styles of tracks, too. The 2-mile track at Auto Club, Talladega Superspeedway, and then a Gateway, of course, where it's, the 1.3 mile, whatever, whatever, something similar to that, this style of track. So he can do it everywhere. He's been doing it everywhere. Love Kyle Busch. Love the fact that we both landed on Kyle this week. And again, plus 900 over on Barstool. He's not one of the favorites. Again, you can go bet Kyle Larson at plus 450 if you want to. But if you bet Kyle Larson at plus 450 every week, it doesn't add up because he's disappointing more weeks than he hits. It's great when he hits. It's awesome. Is anybody surprised? No, but hard to make the case to bet him at such short odds. And then for a little bit of longer shots, I put Ryan Blaney in the document this morning at 14-1. At some places, he's already dropped to 9-1, which is a crazy fast drop. I did still find him at 12-1 on over on Bet 365, and 11-1 over on Barstool. So get him where you can and get him early before his number continues to fall. He's obviously becoming pretty popular. Did finish 37th the first year here, got caught up in a wreck, but 3rd place last season, had a 6th place at Gateway, 3rd place at Dover. We've seen it from him lately, right? Got the win, all the solid finishes. I already talked him up earlier in the show. back on betting Ryan Blaney to win. It feels so good. I love it. And honorable mention, right? Bowman's 30-1 again. It's a Hendrick car. You got to do it. Over on Superbook. 36 last year. He got caught up in a wreck early. 14th in 2021. Not impressive. Been so-so this season. But he opened up the season very strong. Very, very strong. He was a points leader when he got hurt. He's already almost back in the playoffs since missing a few races. He's one of those guys that just jumps up and wins randomly. Do you know why you bet on 30-1 guys that have chances to win races, Rod? Because
Martin Truex.
The last time the Cup Series was on the track. No, Martin Truex was not the favorite. He was 35-1. We laid out the case for why he could do it. He does it. You cash 35-1, 40-1. Some of our guys got. Alex Bowman, I'm not going to make a strong case that he's going to come out and be great here. It is the Ally 400. He's in the Ally car. How many times have we seen the car that's sponsored by, the same title sponsor win the race? Just saying. It was Ally last year and he did horrible. So take that into consideration as well, right? But just the fact that it's a Hendrick car, just the fact that he can win, and his wins are so weird, right? He always just pops up and it's like, whoa, Alex Bowman just won a race, and then it's back to just being a top 10 car everywhere. Like, it's so random and so weird. 30-1, it's hard not to bet on it. Keep throwing those little darts because it's going to hit again eventually. And so I think it's a nice insurance policy to have.
And it was the one Hendrick car that we left out of the jump, so might as well.
Now we got all of them in there.
Now we have all of them. So I was going to say that's probably a good way to cover all of our bases there for Hendrick. So, all right, well, get out your pen and paper. We're going to go over our bets for the Ally 400 out of the Nashville Superspeedway, not a Superspeedway. Cody started you off with Ryan Blaney over Ross Chastain at plus 100 over on Superbook. I said that Kevin Harvick would finish over Ryan Blaney, who will finish over Ross Chastain. So if you want to take Harvick over Chastain as well, you can find that somewhere, I'm sure. But I've got Harvick over Blaney at plus 110 over on Superbook. Both Cody and I have Eric Almirola over Chase Briscoe. It's the Fade Briscoe train. If it ain't broke, don't fix it at minus 125 over on Caesars. Cody gave you Denny Hamlin over Ross Chastain. Once again, fading Chastain at minus 120 over on Superbook. I said that Chris Buescher was going to win Group E over on Superbook at plus 280 over Gibbs, Dillon, and Stenhouse. Cody gave you Ricky Stenhouse as a top 10 car at plus 240 on Caesars. I gave you the winning car number under 9.5 at plus 125 on Caesars. Cody gave you William Byron as a top 5 car at plus 100 on Caesars. I said that the Larson Elliott Quinella at 12-1 was too good to pass up. So take that. And then, of course, we both agreed that Kyle Busch was going to win this race. Cody found him at plus 900 over on Barstool. Get there now before that price moves. And then, of course, Cody gave you Ryan Blaney at 12-1 on Bet 365. Find that one. That's definitely moving. And then Alex Bowman at 30-1 over on Superbook. It is Nashville. It is this weekend. Lots of fun now. NASCAR's back, thank God.
I am so glad. It was sad not to have him last week. Luckily, we had a hell of a week in IndyCar. Hopefully you joined us for that. That was a great fun time, but glad to have NASCAR back. All 3 series back in action. Let's come back the next 2 days. We'll have Xfinity. We'll have trucks. And yeah, one thing I did want to mention too that we didn't talk about as far as the Hendrick goes. Last season, the race wasn't technically supposed to go into the nighttime. There was some rain delays, lightning delays, and it got pushed into the nighttime. That's when the Hendrick cars were super fast. I believe it's a 6 o'clock start this week. So Central Time, which is what Nashville is in. And so it will likely be pushed into the darkness. And so it'll be interesting to see if that continues to hold up as far as the Hendrick strength. If they really hit on something last year in the nighttime that they're able to exercise again and cash all these bets we gave out on them.
6 o'clock Central. That is pretty late start time. 4 o'clock Pacific. That's actually quite a late start time for a race.
Yeah, it's almost a night race. And actually, oh wait, that's the truck race. Yeah, 6 o'clock Central Time. So
wow.
Yeah, it is almost a night race. First race at NBC as well. They've switched over from Fox, and this race will be on actual NBC. So yeah, fun stuff.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. All right. Well, all right. then let's put a bow in this episode, and we'll send everybody to their favorite books to go place their bets. And of course, as we always do, and send you away, Cody, let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Yep. Follow me on Twitter at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my work over there. Got some NFL stuff over there. Got everything else. So, yeah, give it a follow, and then follow the show as well at NASCAR Gambling.
Indeed. Please do. Cody's got his hands in so many pies lately. It's beautiful stuff to see his name gracing the Sports Gambling Podcast Network all over the place. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's in between media. I'll be on the back road again this week. And then, of course, my for frequency's sake articles. Don't know what I'll do for them this week. I may do F1. I may do Indy because I got an itch now. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But check it out there at for frequency's sake. But again, we'll be back tomorrow with the Xfinity and then, of course, the trucks to end out the week. And then I'll find a DFS partner. Cody's going on vacation for a little while. He's leaving us. So I'll find a DFS person for us. But yeah, definitely take care of that. So, all right, everyone, till tomorrow, we'll see you and talk some Xfinity. And until then, let's go racing and let it ride.